Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Sofia and I post videos on travel and minimalism, and today I have a Hong Kong 7-day guide to share with you guys. We went on a honeymoon trip to Hong Kong actually this year, and we wanted to make sure to do like a mix of a city trip with a nature trip, and this was the perfect in-between solution in our opinion. So if you're looking for somewhere like that, I highly recommend considering Hong Kong. We got very lucky on both of our legs to Hong Kong because we didn't have anyone in the seats next to us, which is always very nice. And we had an overnight flight to Hong Kong that landed at around 7 in the morning. Landing in Hong Kong was breathtaking. I cannot express this enough. The mountains were beautiful. And so we got on the metro, and as soon as we got through customs, which was actually fairly quick, it took us less than 15 minutes, we got on the train to our hotel. You can get an octopus card to travel on their public transportation system. It works for trams, buses, and the subway. You can also get it on your Apple Wallet if you want. We chose to get the actual physical card this time, but either works. And the express train from the airport into Hong Kong is beautiful. Before I show you guys anything else, I wanted to say a big thank you to GetYourGuide, which is today's sponsor, and I will tell you guys more about GetYourGuide later. But essentially, we booked all of this trip's activities through them, and I've been obsessed with them for years, so I'm very, very excited that they're sponsoring today's video. We stayed at the Dorset Wan Chai Hotel, and we had a fairly good experience. It wasn't great, but it also was not bad. The only thing I will say about this hotel is that the breakfast gets a little bit boring, but in terms of location and room size, it was perfect. It was right next to the Happy Race horse course, I think it's called. And the first order of business was to go and explore. We were trying to fight jet lag, so we decided to rest a little bit and then head on over to Victoria Peak. To do this, we took the Peak tram up, and we bought these tickets that allowed you to go up and also see a viewpoint called the Sky View, I think. Just beware that it does get very, very busy. Even though they're extremely efficient with how they organize everything, it does get a little bit crowded. We did go at sunset, which made things worse, but I would do it again in a heartbeat, so I definitely recommend it. There's a bit of a mall and a shopping area up top when you arrive, but the real attraction here is going to see the city from the peak, essentially, and I cannot stress enough how absolutely breathtaking this was. We stood there in awe for a solid 30 minutes, I want to say. I think I would have loved to see this during the day as well, so if I could recommend anything, I would say to come here at around right before sunset and experience sunset and then nightfall. I'm sure it's when it gets busier, but there are plenty of places to look at the view from. After that, we headed back down. The tram has a see-through ceiling, and it allows you to see everything on the way down too, which is very beautiful. And we just ended up walking around. The skyscrapers were beautiful. A bunch of them had light effects kind of, and just looking around was mesmerizing. It really took me a while to kind of understand where we were because it's just so grand. And we took one of the little trams that they very lovingly call ding-dings because that's the sound they make at the stops. And we decided to go over to the race course because Happy Valley has races every single Wednesday night, I believe, at least during the season, and we went in November. So it's the Hong Kong Jockey Club. We got in for free, and the vibes were so fun. There was so much music and people drinking and hanging out. We had such a good time. There were like live music. This part is very personal, but I actually did not enjoy the horse races. I don't think I did the research I should have done before coming here. Not that there's anything bad per se regarding this place, but I just didn't love seeing the animals kind of being like forced to race. But this is like a very personal thing. I completely understand the appeal if this is something you're into, but we actually left shortly after the races started and went to this little local restaurant to have some pork ramen, which was delicious. Also, their currency is see-through in certain parts, which we found so fun. On day 2, we actually decided to go to Disneyland, Hong Kong. We typically hit up any Disneyland when we're around. We went to Tokyo earlier this year, and we were not gonna let this one pass by either. So we got on the subway, and there's a direct line from Hong Kong Central to Disney. They have like the typical Disney train. To get our Disney tickets and pre-reserved, we actually used GetYourGuide. Now, one of the reasons we love GetYourGuide so much is that you can actually cancel anything up to 24 hours beforehand. And so if, for example, it were to have been raining on this day, we probably would have swapped our tickets to a sunny day, which if you buy Disney tickets directly through Disney website, for example, you're stuck with that day. And so this applies to any activity you book with them. They also have like a buy now, pay later option, which is super fun because it allows you to budget your trip a little bit better. And so I'm gonna leave all the links for the things we bought down below, but I highly recommend you use GetYourGuide because it just makes everything so much more practical and so easy. Not to mention that you don't have to print out any tickets because you can just do everything online, and they're available in over 60,000 cities all over the world. There's not been a single city that I've gone that they haven't had availability with like activities and things like that. We have an upcoming trip to Qatar and Dubai, which we will also be using them for, and I've been using them for years, even before they sponsored my content. So yeah, if you're looking for an easy, practical way to book activities everywhere you go, then this is definitely it. Fun fact, this Disneyland Hong Kong had actually just opened the new Frozen section, and we didn't know about this until we got there, so we were really excited, and I got this little Olaf ice cream, which was adorable. The rides in Frozen Kingdom weren't like wow per se. I think that it was really fun to like see the boat story, and I think it's ideal for like little kids, but the one thrill attraction they had was about 60 seconds long, and given that we had to wait like an hour 30 minutes for it, I personally don't think it's worth it just because it's a little bit too busy. But if you do enjoy going to Disney, then you will enjoy Disneyland Hong Kong because it's got all the usual typical rides that you'd find in Paris or LA. Another fun fact is they don't call their haunted manor, they call it mystical manor because they're really, really superstitious. And so it's the same concept, but it's just called mystical manor. And please enjoy this little video of my husband trying to mansplain to me that we were not going to go backwards, and me just letting fate show him what was really gonna happen.
We're gonna go backwards.
We're not gonna go back.
Okay.
We're not gonna go backwards.
One thing I do recommend is hitting up all of the shows in the park because they are top notch. Just the actors and the dancers were so good, and they also have a drone show right before their fireworks show, which we saw from far away, but I also highly recommend. Of course, the fireworks and the laser show were fantastic. If you've seen my Tokyo video, you know that I didn't really like the fireworks show in Disneyland Tokyo, Disney Sea, but this one was 5 stars. On day 3, we decided to explore central Hong Kong, and so we took the ferry to Tsim Sha Tsui. I always mispronounce that, but I highly recommend you take the ferry at least once because not only is it a very practical way to get from one island to the other, but it's also a breathtaking viewpoint almost because you get to see both sides and all of the buildings. On the day we went, it was a little bit foggy, but nothing that got in the way of us enjoying the view. If you really want to max out this ferry ride, which by the way was about like $2, then I would highly recommend going once during the day and once at night for the same reason as Victoria's Peak. We went around sunset, as you can see, and that was also a very beautiful time to go. First thing you run into when you get off the ferry is the clock tower, which is a very famous landmark, and you actually end up, I think it's Stars Avenue, I'll leave the name on the screen, but if you just walk from where you get dropped off in the direction of this mall called K11, then you'll see all of the good stuff that there's to see in this area. Number one thing for me is just enjoying the architecture. The architecture in this area is absolutely mind-blowing. There's so much detail. I just couldn't stop almost like gawking at my surroundings because it's so beautiful. There's this really cool art exposition with this wool structure, and this is next to the K11 museum, so if you like taking pictures for Instagram, for example, this is the perfect place to do so. Similar to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, they actually have famous actors and actresses' names engraved on this boardwalk, but instead of having the star like they have in Hollywood, they actually have these very cool handprints of their actual handprints, and it's on the handrail instead of being on the floor, so keep your eye out for that. Our next stop was K11 Musea, which is this beautiful mall. Honestly, we went here just to look around and admire how absolutely gorgeous this is. Even the elevator buttons were in a book, and we also decided to stop for some food. On the underground floor, they have like this food court that has a lot of choices. So if you're looking for meals that are around like 10 to 15 euros per person, then this is the perfect place to go. This mall, as with most malls in Hong Kong, had a lot of high-end brands, so if that's something you're looking to shop for, then you can go somewhere like K11. We just went to walk around mainly. And then our next and final stop for the night was Sky 100. Once again, we got the tickets on GetYourGuide. And this is the QR code you have to show when you arrive. It's the observatory entry ticket, and it allows you to see basically the opposite side's view of Victoria's Peak. Now you're at what you were seeing at Victoria's Peak, essentially. Every single day, there is this light show called Symphony of Lights, and we thought it might be fun to watch it from Sky 100 instead of watching it from the ground. I don't know if you can notice all of the lights changing, but that was really fun. So if you want to come here at around, again, sunset seems to be the perfect time to do anything in Hong Kong. But if you want to get cooler views of Symphony of Lights, then I highly recommend coming to Sky 100. After that, we walked around the area. There was live music, the views were beautiful, so we just had a lot of fun exploring, and we didn't really have a go-to point per se. We were just allowing ourselves to wander around. After that, we decided to go to Temple Market, and we took one of these mini buses. If you take one of these green buses, just be warned that they drive like crazy. We were laughing our asses off because we honestly were unsure we would survive this ride. They actually even have these speedometers in giant screens so you can control how fast they're going, because maybe it was becoming a problem. I'm not sure. When we finally arrived at Temple Night Market, we just mainly walked around and enjoyed all the little shops. We also did some shopping, and here you can find everything from like scarves and bags to souvenirs, magnets, keychains, phone cases, you name it. Don't forget to bargain with them a little bit because they're definitely going to overcharge you as a tourist. And after that, we hit up McDonald's because when we travel, we love seeing what unique items are on each country's McDonald's. And in this case, there were crispy thighs with honey, which were really good. On day 4, we went over to Ngong Ping to see the big Buddha statue. We did arrive at around noon, and I will say that it was extremely busy and the line was very long. Even though we bought our ticket online with GetYourGuide, like we always do, you had to change the ticket to an actual ticket from there. This isn't unique to GetYourGuide. Everyone there had to go through a specific ticket desk, and that ticket desk took about an hour and a half to stand in line for. What I will say is that it's always going to be like this unless you're one of the first people to get there in the morning, and the wait is, I promise you, very worth it because it takes you over to Ngongping village where the Buddha is, which is not just about the Buddha itself, it's actually a little town that you can enjoy. And so the views there are magnificent. We go over this like clear blue water in these cable carts. They're all shared, so you can't really go alone in the cable cart unless you get a very specific expensive kind of ticket, but they only put 2 other people in the cabin with us, so it was not that much. You can actually hike all the way there, but it's insanely long and we're not hikers by any means, so we decided to just enjoy the scenic route. You can start to see the Buddha statue from pretty far away, and once you get there, you actually understand the magnitude of the size of this thing. And we walked around through the little town. They have everything from like little local coffee shops to even Starbucks here. And so we made our way to the statue, making sure to stop and appreciate all the little details that we found along the way. Fun fact, there are actually cows just hanging around here. Do not approach them or try to pet them. They don't really harm people, but you're not supposed to disturb the animals. There's also a lot of dogs roaming free, and again, they're harmless, but I don't recommend touching them because they are street dogs. For the most part, my biggest recommendation is that you just walk around, explore every little detail you want to. You can do this in as little as about 2 hours to as long as a whole day. It takes you around, again, 1 hour, 30 minutes to wait in line, about another 20 minutes for the actual cable cart ride, and then you do need about at least an hour to be able to see everything. There are a lot of steps up to the Buddha statue. It's not very difficult to do, but it takes a while. If you're not super fit, you might want to stop a few times. So this is definitely not something you can do in a rush, because the metro ride from central Hong Kong here is also around 40 minutes. The views you have of the surrounding islands from up at the Buddha statue are also beautiful. After that, we headed back on the cable car and we went to Citygate outlets to have some food, but also to shop because we heard that you can get quite a few good deals here. And I did snag some Michael Kors bags at some really good prices and a little Pandora charm to remember this trip by. On day 5, we headed over to the Sai Kung district and we went to visit an old friend of mine, and her boyfriend were super kind and took us on a little hike and to see the area, and we had such a great time with them. They were fantastic to us. We really wouldn't have dared to explore this area if it hadn't been to her suggesting it, and so I want to suggest this area to you guys because it's definitely worth the visit. It's this little fisherman town / village, and not only can you get excellent food here, super fresh fish and seafood, but if you're up for a little hike or just a little walk, the views from here are beautiful. The water's super blue, the nature is really vibrant, and we had a great time. We got on one of the little ferry boats and we just went to the nearest island. We walked around. Again, we're not huge hikers, so they took us on like a very gentle hike, and then we had a delicious meal nearby next to the water. We got to enjoy the sunset on the water. It was an amazing day. On day 6, we decided to stay around central Hong Kong again, but this time we started off by having some breakfast near Hong Kong Park. We went to this place called Bakehouse, and they weren't specifically from there, but they had amazing sandwiches and delicious coffee. And after that, we walked on over to Hong Kong Park. This is again one of those areas that you just want to explore and not really go with a plan, but some of the things you'll get to enjoy are the contrast of nature with the skyscrapers in the background. There's beautiful ponds, waterfalls, there's even turtles and butterflies. So just have a blast and get lost a little bit in the park. It's a lot smaller than Central Park, but it's kind of the same vibe where it's like an oasis in the middle of a city. After that, we got on a bus and we headed towards the mid-level escalators, which we heard a lot about. Do note that it's very easy to navigate Hong Kong by using Apple Maps or Google Maps. Everything is very clear when it comes to instructions on what bus to take or what ding-ding to take. And the mid-level escalators are just these escalators in the middle of the city. And if you take them, you get to basically stand and take pictures, enjoy the views. You get to see all the local little streets and the buildings around you. And it's just a very interesting experience. I highly recommend it. After that, we headed over to the famous temple. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I'm going to butcher the name again, but it's very culturally rich. They burn a lot of incense here, so I wasn't able to stay inside the temple for very long. I was only able to film a little bit and take a few pictures because it's very smoke dense in there. And yeah, I wasn't able to stay very long to enjoy it. Do realize that this is a place of worship for locals, so be very respectful of everything you do while you're inside. Try not to get in the way and try not to film anyone's face. But other than that, all of the details are worth enjoying, from the little statues to the engravings. Everything is beautiful, so I highly recommend visiting the temple. After this, we got back on a double-decker bus, but this time we decided to go all the way up and sit at the very top in the front. It's kind of like in London, where if you sit at the top level in front, you get a beautiful view of everything and everywhere you're going, essentially. And so it's a very affordable way to get some views, and especially at the end of the day, if you're very tired from walking around, it's an awesome way to just get a bit more out of your day without having to push yourselves to the physical extremes that your body might go to. Also, we ran into this robot vacuum cleaner or like floor cleaner, and it was honestly the cutest little thing and so very appropriate. We just thought it was awesome. It kept crashing into this lady though who didn't notice it, so we decided to film it. After that, we headed to the Times Square area. It's a little bit like the Times Square in New York, but a lot less busy. It just has a lot of screens and buildings and places to shop, places to eat, just a very cool area to enjoy. Also, I don't know if you've noticed by now, but their malls are awesome. They're so cool, they're enormous. Architecturally, they're very cool, and there's just so many shops. There's something for every taste and every budget. The view from the top floors down to Times Square is also very cool, so I highly recommend going up there to see everything from the top. We ended up trying some blue lobster and wagyu meat. Again, I'm gonna butcher all these things. And it was a little bit pricey, but definitely delicious. There also seemed to be some kind of like meet and greet with someone who's probably famous in their culture, but we didn't recognize them. We just thought it was very cool. You might also notice that we went around Christmas time and I just took awfully long to edit this video. Even though they don't really celebrate Christmas, they do decorate for it, which I found very interesting. On the last few days of our trip, we decided to go over to Macau and spend the night there. And Macau is just a 1 hour and 20-ish minutes ferry boat ride away. And to get there, we just took a taxi to the ferry terminal. You can also take the bus, but we did have our luggage on us, so we decided to take a taxi for convenience. And you can go and just buy the tickets directly from the ticket counter. We went with Turbojet, but that's just because it was the next one out. You can really choose whichever company, it doesn't really matter, and the prices are all around the same, so just choose whichever fits your schedule best. After you get your ticket, you go through a little security area and they check your ticket, and then you just wait to board. The water was not crazy on the days that we went there and back, but the last day was a little bit more turbulent and I definitely got a bit seasick. So if you are somebody who's very sensitive to these kinds of things, I highly recommend maybe taking some kind of pill with you a few minutes before so that it's not as rough. But overall, the journey was very easy. They had Wi-Fi on board, and so it was all very quick. One fun fact is that Macau actually has a very big Portuguese influence, and so you'll see that all of the things are written in both English and also Mandarin and Portuguese. And after we arrived, we chose to take another Uber to our hotel. We stayed at the Londoner. You can also take the bus. It's very easy. They also have a few transfers, but because we were quite tired from our journey, we decided to go with the Uber for convenience. We only paid about $9. Coming to Macau is a little bit like experiencing Las Vegas. It's very casino oriented, very big, grand, and there's also a strip that's meant to be like the Las Vegas strip, and you'll see that a lot of the hotels are very similar. They have like a Parisian hotel, a Venice hotel, all of the hotels and kind of like little landmarks that you can find in Las Vegas, you'll find here too. The only thing I will note is that after COVID, they stopped having as many shows, like nighttime shows, concerts, things like that. So definitely the only entertainment is like going to the casino, enjoying some food, having a drink. So it's not the most child-friendly destination if you're traveling with little kids, but if you are into betting a little bit and just kind of enjoying like a glamorous type of staycation, then Macau is definitely for you. The Londoner was beautiful inside. A lot of these hotels connect to each other. The room was enormous, very like Las Vegas style. The bathroom was literally the size of a full room. It was insane and a very fun experience. So after dropping off our things and getting a little bit of rest, we decided to go explore and also go grab some dinner for the night. Almost every single hotel has their own casino. You just have to be 18 years old to play. One interesting fact is that you actually have to bet in most of these machines using Hong Kong dollars and not the Macau currency. So don't be like us and try to feed the machine Macau currency because it simply will not take it. Also, fair warning, you will get lost in a lot of these hotels. They're enormous. Our hotel also had a little pool, which we didn't get to enjoy because we weren't staying for long, but definitely double check if your hotel has a pool because the majority of these do, and the weather is fairly nice all year round. After exploring the Londoner a little bit, we decided to go for a little walk and go to the Parisian and enjoy the Eiffel Tower that they have outside. And if you want a very fun and free thing to do, head on over to the Wynn Palace and get on their Skycab cable car. It's a little gondola lift system that goes over the fountain water show that they have, and you get a bird's eye view of the garden and just like a very cool panoramic perspective of the city. There are two ways to get on this cable car, and if you go through the inside of the hotel instead of getting it on the outside, the line is much shorter. We got very lucky and actually were able to line up, us being in the car with the water show, which happens every 15 minutes. So it's very hard to time it like that. It was completely just luck. But if you're able to, then you'll get amazing views of the show. Sadly, after our night in Macau, our time in Hong Kong came to an end, so we got back on the ferry towards Hong Kong and then on the Hong Kong metro to the airport, and we had an overnight flight back to Paris and then back home. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got some good tips out of it. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.